Beginning of chapter 3, Aristotle asks whether friendships should or should not be broken off when the other party does not remain the same. Let's remember that the use of the word friendship in these chapters doesn't map exactly with the same relational territory for Aristotle as it does for us. Well, it certainly includes what we would call friendship. It also includes a broader range of relationships. The answer he gives in what follows builds on what he said of the three kinds of friendship that he identified in Book 8. If a friend is no longer useful or pleasant, in other words, if the friendship provides no benefits or is no longer being fun, breaking it off makes good sense. If the friendship is rooted in character and a shared love of the good, then breaking the friendship is less to be expected. A problem Aristotle identifies here is when friends are mistaken as to the true nature of their relationship. One or both of the friends may believe that the relationship is the third type of friendship, built on character, when it is in fact built on usefulness or pleasantness. In this case, the change that happens could be one or both coming to see the true nature of the relationship. Do you have friendships that are built on character and shared love of the good, rather than just built on usefulness or having fun together? If so, how does personal change come into the picture? When considering ourselves, do we expect that we ourselves will not change? When considering our friend, what do we expect of our friend? Let's imagine that we have a friendship that is rooted in shared love of the good. As our relationship progresses, we experience growth in our knowledge of and participation in the good. We cannot help changing, becoming different people in some sense. Can we have a relationship that is so rooted in our attachment to the other person that it is impervious, or at least mostly impervious, to being negatively affected by the natural changes that happen? At 1165b, line 23, Aristotle offers a negative answer. He says, "But if one friend remained the same while the other became better and far outstripped him in virtue, should the latter treat the former as a friend? Surely he cannot." I think Aristotle is clearly correct about this, at least some of the time. Thinking as a friend, however, I seek to be a true friend who seeks not only my own growth in virtue, but my friend's growth as well. I invest myself not only in my own advancement, and not merely additionally in my friend's advancement. I also look to the relationship between us as a sort of third thing, a thing connecting to friends, but other than each one person. I value my friend and I value my friendship with him. I pay attention to the friendship relation we have with each other. Aristotle begins chapter 4 with an inward turn. He suggests friendly relations with one's neighbors and the marks by which friendships are defined seem to have proceeded from a man's relations to himself. This is obvious, he thinks, because A, friends wish each other well, and we wish ourselves well. B, friends desire the continued existence of each other, again, something we desire for ourselves. C, friends have shared tastes, and D, friends grieve and rejoice with each other. What do you make of his case? Are you convinced? Can we take him to be saying that the harmony we look for and expect between friends is reflective of the internal harmony we expect within ourselves? At 1166a, line 32, Aristotle says, "A friend is another self." This isn't just an English idiom that David Ross has chosen to express the Greek. It's a fairly literal translation. Greek has two words for another, allos and heteros. Allos, the word used here, is another of the same kind. Heteros is another of a different kind. Obviously, the emphasis here is on the likeness of friends. Perhaps you remember the adage he uses in the previous book: birds of a feather flock together. I need friends who are different from me. And their differences, they help me see things I'd be otherwise blind to, things in the world and things in myself. Friends who are different challenge and provoke me toward the good. They help me envision a larger, fuller way of living that I'd miss out on if I were limited to only myself and another or others who were just other versions of me. Do you have friends that are so close, so similar to you that you would consider them another self? Would having a friend who is another self be helpful to you? Is it something you look for? If that's what it takes to be a real friend, I'm not sure I have many, if any, but I do count myself to have many friends, even friends who are not merely useful or pleasant, but friends with whom I share a pursuit of the good. Thus, I'm not convinced by Aristotle's claim here. What about you? What do you think? Aristotle asks at the beginning of chapter 8 whether a person should love himself most or someone else. The obvious first answer he provides to this question is a roundabout no. People who love themselves most would be condemned as self-lovers. In the next paragraph, he's already refuting his first answer. Well, at least partially. Self-love makes sense and certainly is to be expected of someone who is rational and mentally healthy. At 1169a, line 12, he continues, therefore the good person should be a lover of self, for he will both himself profit by doing noble acts and will benefit his fellows. But the wicked person should not, for he will hurt both himself and his neighbors, following as he does evil passions. Good people do good things. Good things are good in themselves and are good for the one doing the good and for those in proximity to the one doing the good. Inasmuch then as love requires doing good to the one who is loved, it makes good sense to love oneself. But Aristotle hasn't asked the question, should a person love himself? He's asked the question, should a person love himself most? I'm happier affirming the former than I am the latter. My observation is that when I love myself most, it warps and weakens my love for other people. I easily come to the point where I sacrifice them for my own needs. When I love myself rightfully, I can look out for my own needs, and at the same time recognize that my needs are not ultimate. Sometimes real love will mean sacrificing my needs, maybe even my own life, for another. Perhaps we can read this discussion in terms of what we see in the psychological egoism thesis. That thesis claims that people naturally seek what is in their own self-interest. It is a descriptive claim, a claim about the way things are. It's not a prescriptive claim or a normative claim, a claim about how things should be. If we were thinking about this thesis in the way of Aristotle, we'd want to explore how people come to know what is in their own self-interest, and to clearly differentiate between that and what merely appears to be in their own self-interest. We encounter an odd discussion in chapter 9, whether happy people need friends. It is said, Aristotle reports, that those who are supremely happy and self-sufficient have no need of friends, for they have the things that are good, and therefore being self-sufficient, they need nothing further. While a friend, being another self, furnishes what a person cannot provide by his own effort. But it seems strange when one assigns all good things to the happy person, not to assign friends, who are thought to be the greatest of external goods. I'm with Aristotle here. People then and now might claim that a self-sufficiency that eliminates the need for friends is a desirable state. But yes, Aristotle, that is indeed a strange position to take. Friends are themselves a good thing. I cannot be truly happy apart from having others that I count as friends and with whom I maintain relationships, friendships. At 1169b, line 18, we see a famous line from Aristotle, further advancing this claim. Humans are political creatures, and one whose nature is to live with others. If we are to be truly human, other people are required. Notice that we are again venturing into the territory of anthropology. What discipline has us ask, what does it mean to be human? Part of the answer we see here is that we are political creatures. Our very nature is to live together in community. How we live in that community can and ought to be a matter of pursuing friendship. We may lack the capacity to have deep relationships with many, since we are limited, finite beings. But we can have significant relationships with some people. But here we are sliding into the topic of chapter 10. How many friends should we aim to have? This is where Aristotle's three kinds of friendships can be especially advantageous. When we're looking for the first kind of friend, those who are useful, the more the merrier. As finite, limited beings, we need help, not just occasionally, but all the time and in many ways. The more friends we have, the more people within our circles of relationship that we can help and from whom we can get help, the better off we are, the better they will be. The case is similar, Aristotle says, for friends who function as friends in our pursuit of the pleasant. We cannot have too many friends we simply enjoy doing things with. But what about the third kind of friend, the friend with whom we share a common pursuit of the good? Though when it comes to the other kinds of friend, more is better, there are limits. We have finite resources to share with others and limited time to engage in pleasant things. The third type of friend, we are even more limited. When we share the common pursuit of the good, which goes beyond merely agreeing about what is good, we invest deeply in each other. Because we are finite beings, we can only go that far, that deep with a few. If we try to have many friends of this type, we can end up not having any due to the shallowness of the resulting relationships. When do we need friends the most? In good times or in bad? Well, when times are bad, we need friends who are useful to come alongside us and rescue us. We need their help. That answer works pretty well across cultures. Aristotle's discussion of our need for friends when our fortune is good may be less intuitive to people in our culture. His claim is that we need friends when times are good so that we can be noble and confer benefits on them. In other words, when times are tough, we need friends just to make it. When times are good, we need friends to become better people. The quality of our character depends not merely, or even primarily, on our doing well and being successful. We need to give and to share. Friends give us that kind of outlet wherein we can develop our character and take our eyes off of ourselves.